All right, I'll come back to the SportsMax. So we're talking to the president of the West Indies Cricket Board, Dave Cameron, who, by the way, has been president for almost 2 years now.
That's almost 2 years.
So March
27, 2013 will be 2 years.
And that's so March 27 is the election?
March 7th.
March 7th. Do you know if you'll have any challenges?
Not as yet. But I hope that we do have some challenges.
Oh, you do?
I hope so.
Why?
Because the truth is, Simon, I don't believe that that I'm the only one that can run West Indies cricket. I think, if there are persons out there who believe they could do a better job, then absolutely.
Don't just stay in the sidelines.
Yeah, it's not an easy job. I think we take the other things, the surrounding things for granted. For example, we have CARICOM, we have all the issues that we as Jamaicans have with Trinidad and etc. And then we expect that you bring a group of players from different countries together and a group of directors, and it's just easy to manage. There are a lot of challenges. So I don't necessarily have the answers. So if somebody else believes that they do, and the directors and the shareholders believe so, then by all means.
Speaking of managing issues and difficulties, Chris Gale was fairly
caustic.
Caustic is the right word about the selectors and the decision to leave out Bravo and Pollard. What policy? Do you have a policy as it relates to players?
We have a policy, and Chris Gale has breached a policy. My understanding, it has been referred to the disciplinary committee.
It's a disciplinary committee that will deal with, and that's headed by whom?
Justice Saunders. Justice
Saunders is still there.
Yes, that's correct.
So they will look at that.
Absolutely.
Before the World Cup or after?
It's been sent to them, so I'm not sure how quickly they'll convene a meeting, or if Justice Saunders will just issue a reprimand or whatever the case is.
Okay.
But we do have a policy.
Yes, I figured as much. I was just wondering if there was anybody
and just
who
to be clear,
exercised
this policy addresses comments within a series. In other words, if he made those comments outside of a contractual period of a series, not currently, would it be still looked at in the same way?
Well, it's interesting that you ask that, because this new system has everybody contracted all the time.
Okay.
Which is
although he's rejected that.
Absolutely.
That contract, has he not?
He has rejected that contract. So himself and Sunil Narayan. And that is part of the issue with the new setup, because it now has everybody contracted all the time. You're therefore under supervision of the board. It's not the WICB, one of the franchises at all times. And so you'll be under the code of conduct at all times, which allows us now to have.
But then, almost like India in the case of the DRS and not taking part in it, and we saw one wicket go down today, which makes you think that maybe they're on the right path, having been very critical of them in the past. You've got then players who are West Indies players from time to time who do not have to conform to any code of conduct because they haven't signed a contract with you.
Well, once they're on tour, they have to sign a contract.
Right.
In between tours, they don't have to sign a contract. So, because even though we have the contracts, we have what we call pay-as-you-play players. Okay. So if you, for example,
which is what
Chadwick Walton could be a pay-as-you-play player because he's not on a contract at any level, and so as he, makes a team, he just gets paid a match fee.
Okay. Speaking of which, has Dwayne Bravo accepted a contract?
Dwayne Bravo has accepted a contract.
Strange in West Indies cricket, because he's still clearly not happy with the situation.
The thing about it, a player like Dwayne Bravo, you want to be able to remain in your first class system. So let me just give you a little synopsis of the system. This system, if it works properly, will have your best players earning from the West Indies Cricket Board for at least 20 years. So you'll get a player like a Jason at 23 coming into the system and starting to earn, playing for the West Indies. he'll play for the next 10, 12, 15 years. We hope that he will transition to the first-class game after leaving West Indies cricket to assist the youngsters coming through the system and imparting his knowledge, and then moving on to the next level. We're now looking at how do we transition the players from West Indies cricket and after the regional cricket to the next level. So we've created a Retired Players Foundation, and we're trying to deal with that. Because the big challenge for some of these players, what we call our senior players now, is the apprehension of moving on.
What happens after?
The anxiety.
And what happens after?
Of what happens after. And that we haven't addressed in a very good way. We've now included a lot of our former players into our setup, but we need to do a lot more.
Now, when you were first elected president, and we had you in the studio here, and with the PIBUS appointment and so on, you had given us a kind of a timeline as to when you expect to see some profound turnaround in West Indies, changes and so on. Over the past 3 or 4 months, I've gotten the feeling that we have taken some steps backwards, and you're probably way off the 8 ball based on where you were projecting the recovery of West Indies cricket to be in January 2015.
Yeah, I think where we would have missed it was in actually being able to negotiate a new contract with WICB. So one of the big things that we've done in the last 2 years is really having a relationship with WICB, which everybody thought was a good thing. We've had 2 awards.
Past tense, you said everybody thought.
Well, you know, now we're here that WICB and WICB is a problem, and the players are the one that's correct. We had an issue with WICB for years. We lost a lot of money. We were in court all the time. That we fixed. And we felt we needed to sit down and create a partnership. It took us longer than we expected. And that partnership is what has created this new MOU. Now that we've just been able to put the MOU in place last year, we are 2 to 3 years before we start seeing the kind of improvements that we expect. Speaking
of the contracts, why did the players actually leave for India without a contract? I thought we'd fix that issue.
Well, Simon, the challenge is clearly it's a breakdown in management at some point, but we're not able to finalize the contracts until late because of the new MOU. We only signed it in the middle of September. Now, bear in mind, we've been playing. The court actually terminated the whole MOU the 13th of March 2013. And we continued to honor the obligation. I said to Wavell, do not spend any money on going to court to try and fight this. Let us sit down and create a new MOU in spirit. And he said, okay, President, let us do that. And so I continued to pay all the fees as we honor the whole MOU, respect the whole MOU until that point. So that was the first time we're actually signing new contracts going forward.
Okay. Well, last night the President of the United States of America gave his State of the Union address. We'll find out about the state of the West Indies Cricket Board from the President when we come back.